Good evening, Friendship Baptist Church. We want to thank you guys for tuning in and watching this with us. Your investment in this process has been amazing. We do appreciate the comments and the thank yous and the encouragement that we've each gotten. That's helped us. We put out a lot of information this past week. Brad did one on the voting, Miss Leanna about the process, and Esther did one about the packets. We hope you've each received those packets, and that'll answer a lot of the questions. But again, thank you for watching this with us. We're very excited to share the Zoom meeting with you guys. We did record it Saturday, so this is pre-recorded. After this video, if you should have questions, if you'll either forward them back to the email at fbcsearchcommittee2019@gmail.com or reach out to each one of the search members, we'd be happy to get back to you and answer those questions. We truly feel that we've been diligent in this search. We've been faithful to the church in this task. We've asked all the questions that we could possibly think of. And without a doubt, we can tell you that we feel Shawn and Sarah are the perfect fit for Friendship Baptist family. We hope and pray that these videos and all the information that we put out has been helpful. And above all, we pray that God blesses Friendship Baptist Church. For this Zoom meeting, I'm going to ask the questions as chairman of the search team. We've kind of divided the questions up so that we're not talking over each other, and that'll be a little easier to get through all of them. We've discussed and divided each question, so we've at length discussed each one that we're going to give you an answer to. But please note, you can talk about Shawn and Sarah for hours and hours, and we've proved it. My Zoom thing runs out all the time, so we've done this multiple times. There's a lot of information fixing to come at you, so I hope you enjoy this, and God bless you. We always open with prayer, so let's pray. Father God, it's a beautiful day outside, and this is an awesome task that you've given us. We thank you for that. I pray that as you've led us through this, that watching this Zoom allows our church family to understand a little bit more about our man that we've called to be pastor, Shawn Mills and Sarah Mills, and their family, Haley and Ty. Pray for them, that you lift them up and guide everything that we do, Father, that your perfect will would be done here in Jesus' name. Thank you for all that you've done. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So our first question, we're going to address to the search team. Just a couple of you guys answer. What drew the search team to Shawn?
I would like to say the one thing that really drew me to Shawn on his application on the very last page was the personal statement of call. And the last two sentences, he stated, I was sitting in a service one night and God spoke to me clearly and said, I want you to serve me in ministry for the rest of your life. I surrendered to God's call on my life and have followed the call of God on my life to this day.
Anyone else?
I think his resume stood out to us when we first saw it as we were going through them week after week after week, and we compiled a group that we really felt like would be a fit for us. And his kept coming back to the top of the pack even after we sent the questionnaire out. When we got his response to the questionnaire, it was just it just put him head and shoulders above others that we had reviewed.
Yeah. All right, one more. Anybody?
I'd like to say Shawn's resume, when I first read it, was almost shocking to me. The level and caliber of a man of God that he is, and it was such a difference to see a resume that, number one, was excellently prepared, and it covered most all the bases that we were looking to be covered. And honestly, I have to say, when I read Shawn's resume, I was telling God, this is a phenomenal man of God that you've laid in front of us. But, I was a little like, well, it may be too good to be true. But as the process went on and the way everything worked together, and you'll see when we answer these questions that it was truly God's hand in this, that we are at this point right now, and to bring this time and this excitement that we have. But no, his resume to me was, and over the 5 years, I've looked at hundreds of resumes from pastors. This was the best resume I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Hands down.
All right. Next question, Josh is going to answer. It says, what did the search process look like? How were the candidates interviewed? And what questionnaire was sent to the candidates?
I'm so sorry that Anna's joined me through this.
You
She just
know.
woke up from her nap. So if you'll hear Frozen in the background, I'm sorry about that. So the way the process worked, we set up the search team email, which you guys have been sending your emails to, so thank you for that. And we got emails from pastors. Some were pastors, some were sent to us by other people. So in the instance of Shawn, Shawn's was actually not sent by him. It was sent by somebody who thought he would be a great fit for our church. But from that stack, we had well over 80. I don't remember the exact number, but we would go through approximately 5 per week. Some were easy to go through, and some were a little bit more difficult to go through. But through that week, we would easily eliminate a few, and we may keep a couple. Shawn's obviously stayed with us, and I'm kind of with David on this. I mean, when we saw his resume, that quickly became the litmus paper for what I compared other resumes to. And how good they were or how bad they were in comparison to Shawn. But we would go through, we'd keep and not keep, and then we would relook at some of our others. So we distilled it down to, I believe, 3 or 4 that we sent a questionnaire to. And then once we got that questionnaire back, we were able to quickly eliminate another one that left us with 2. So the 2 candidates that we had, we went ahead and had a kind of a conference call, I guess, if you will, where we went through and talked to them and just asked them questions, tried to fill out their heart, feel out where they were in the ministry, feel out where we were in the ministry. And I'll speak for myself personally. After that, it was incredibly evident. We talked to Shawn for, I think, 2 or 3 hours. It was a long time, and it could have easily went on another couple hours, if not more. So from there, we asked Shawn and Sarah to come to Bologna, where we met with them for a couple nights. We ate really good. We talked really good. So they check out, and they are Baptists. They do like to eat good food. So we can appreciate that. And we just really got a chance to get to know Shawn and Sarah. And they, their family, kind of her heart for ministry, her heart for supporting Shawn. Shawn's heart for ministry and what he looks for and what he wants to do. So from after that, we took a couple of days to ourselves just to try and process and pray and see where we were. And we were able to pretty quickly, or at least I was, identify where we thought we were with Shawn. But we took a little while to confirm that. Then we came back as a search committee and met, and we were all in unison as far as talking to Shawn, and Shawn and Sarah answered their part of that. So we were able to call them. And so we were able to, sorry. We were able to be at the process that you see us at now. So that's kind of the short of it. That's a quick way to distill down what we've been doing for the past over a year now.
Yeah. All right. Our next question that came in is, what was the search team's prayer life like through this journey? And I'm going to answer that for you. All along, we've started with prayer. We had been coached by different men that strongly urged us to pray. We found a couple of books from a pastor that described the search process and what we needed to do. And a lot of it had to do with our personal walk and our personal prayer life. And each one of us had some stuff to work on. And I think through the steps of this process, it got a little bit more intense when we took on the interim and the search team changed. Brad Matthews came on. Probably the next thing that stands out in my mind as far as our prayer life goes, we gathered at the altar in the sanctuary one day, and each on our knees around the altar over by the piano, we prayed for each other by name and asked for blessings over each one of us, prayed for things that we were dealing with, each other's personal lives, those kind of things. And it seemed to solidify a little bit of our journey, kind of give us some unity, because it wasn't very long after that we started in this path with having Shawn's resume and everything on it. So I think our prayer life, I know speaking personally, it's made me become a lean on God kind of thing. I have to get there and pray and study, or we're going to have trouble. And I'm sure the members of this group will second that motion, because we've seen each other through a lot.
Amen.
Okay, our next question. How long has, Miss Esther's going to answer this one. How long has the search been narrowed down to only Shawn Mills, and why are they leaving Watkinsville so soon?
Okay. First of all, narrowed down to Shawn Mills. We received Shawn's resume in January. And I'll just have to say, I think for all of us, as you kind of heard before, Shawn was kind of at the top. But we wanted to do our due diligence. We went ahead and vetted all the resumes that we had in our possession. We talked to other candidates, but Shawn, in my mind, and I think almost in everyone, he was always the front runner. So when did we clear the whole slate and we were only speaking to Shawn? I think that was maybe in the beginning of March. But we have had his resume and basically used it to compare others, and several had talked to Shawn, and we talked to his friends and the references. So Shawn's been the man for us, I think, in most of our minds since early in 2020. So the rest of my question is, why are they leaving Watkinsville? Well, you'll notice on his resume that they've only been in Watkinsville for a year, maybe a little over a year. They moved to Watkinsville. They love it, but maybe after they moved there, Sarah's mom got sick. And as a lot of us have experienced a lot of times in family with health and our aging parents, things can change, and Sarah was coming back and forth from Atlanta and Watkinsville to Arkansas to care for her mom, who unfortunately passed in December. But during that trial for them, they began to seek the Lord and just had a burden that their family is here. Their family's in Arkansas, and it's hard to live that far away and care for aging parents. So they began to pray what that might look like and how the Lord might lead them home where they could care for their aging parents. So that's kind of the stirring and how it began for them to seek God's will in coming back to Arkansas, was based on some family situations that they needed. They felt like the Lord was leading them back here to do that. So that's kind of why it's only been a year. Again, they loved Watkinsville, and I think Watkinsville is very sad to lose them, but just family things that's led them back here.
Yeah. And so they came home a couple of weeks ago to see their family and do a fishing trip, and then went back to Georgia. They drove back and then got a phone call the next Tuesday morning that Shawn's grandfather had passed. So they turned around a day later and drove back to Arkansas and had a funeral a few days ago. Again, just a little bit more to add to that. Miss Esther, how do you feel like Sarah fits into Shawn's ministry?
Oh, I'm telling you, you guys are going to be excited. I just, in talking with Sarah and hearing her share with us, we're not getting a preacher, we're getting a team.
That's right.
And
Amen.
she has a heart for the Lord, and she has a heart for people. She loves people. I mean, she reminds me of Miss Hilda a lot, because I see Sarah, no matter if you need her in the nursery, if you need her in children's, if you need her in the kitchen, she might even help David wash dishes. Women's ministry, she's very excited. And over through this process, we heard Shawn and Sarah say, we can't wait to get to know your people. Women's ministry, oh, who else has missed the latest Bible study and our women's ministry? We are in for a treat. And I know they're just looking at what's the possibilities. I think Sarah is excited to get here, to communicate with us, to learn the people, to love on the people, and say, all right, guys, what's it look like for us? Let's open it up, and I think the sky's the limit. She loves people. I think they just want to come and serve. And you're gonna like her. She is got great personality. She's very friendly. I just think you're going to love her. One of the kids that had known them in Super Summer reached out to one of our members. They had a common connection. And he said to our member, he said, man, you're going to love Shawn. We love him. He said, but you're going to love his wife. She is awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be great days for the ladies and for overall for FBC.
Yeah, for sure. Miss Leanna, this question is yours. It says, what is the difference between associate pastor and executive pastor? Has Shawn been a senior pastor before? What has he been part of in the church setting?
Okay. First of all, I have the definitions here. The executive pastor oversees all events, personnel, budgetary matters, and committee structures of the church. The associate pastor is same or similar as executive pastor, but with a different terminology. It might encompass, for example, like associate pastor of children's ministry or associate pastor of youth. Now, part two. Does that suffice, Todd?
Yes, ma'am. Whatever you answer, that's great.
Okay. So, and their part two, has Shawn been a senior pastor before? Well, no. You want me to ask that next question?
Yes, ma'am.
Part C to that question is, what has he been a part of the church in the church setting? Well, first of all, I would like for us to review, if you went to get your packet, I'd like for us to review the resume. If you did not get the resume of Shawn, give us a call. You can call me at 501-454-2667 or one of the other members. But anyway, I'd like to kind of briefly just review that. If you look, and Esther has already explained about the Watkins bill, that they've just been there a year, but if you look at what he has been doing since that, he's been the executive preacher. He has, they've had 1,700 weekly average attendance. He's over all the ministries, the administrative duties. He manages too like a $7.5 million building project that's ongoing. Also, if you look next, he was at Battle Creek at Broken Arrow. He served in 3 roles there: a campus pastor, a next generation pastor, and a lead children's pastor. That church had 6 church locations. It was a multi-church. So if you look at it, you can see the detail of all the work that he did, all the administrative, all the responsibilities as being an executive or a campus pastor. But what's really exciting, let's look at, he came back to Arkansas from March 11 to March 13, 2013. He was the executive director of our Super Summer in Arkansas. And you know, that is a great ministry for the youth in our area, but for the youth in the state. So I think, and when he was over that, he basically, provided the leadership and the vision. Also, I think you can see when you read his resume, you can see that he's got a lot of very expertise in a lot of areas that is critical for a pastor. Now, this is I'd like to share with you, this has been an education process for me, and I'm sure it hasn't been for the others since we've been on the pastor search committee. I've got to show you this. We went through 2 books. The first book, I don't know if you can see that, is The Search is on Finding and Calling a Pastor, and this one is Seeking God to Seek a Pastor. Anyway, and also we had meetings with Warren Gasway, Brother Sheffield, and the thing about it is, it was education. They were teaching us how to search. How do you search for a pastor? And I learned that we have to have a senior pastor that would know how to run a church. Here's terminology I had never heard in relation to a preacher, and that is organizational management. The exact term is called structural organizational management. And Paul mentions that in the books of Corinthians. So definitely looking back over his resume, I think you can see that Brother Shawn definitely meets all of those. Now, what about preaching? if you look through the resume, you'll see that he preaches quite often. But in my interview with Rob Dunning, who's the associate and teaching pastor, Foundation Church in Sapulpa, Oklahoma, and y'all saw that his video, our first 3 reference videos, you saw that he spoke about and told about Shawn. But in my interview with Rob, he said that Shawn is always preaching. In probably the past 4 months, he has spoken 15 to 20 times to discipleship conferences, different churches, and youth. So now we've got to go back to education, because for me, this was all very education and enlightening. You know what we learned, and this is quotation marks from one of our readings. Most preachers do not damage from the pulpit, but it is from the operation of the preacher or the administration of the preacher. And that goes back to the lack of structural organizational management. Now, in closing, my last question that I had for Rob Dunning, and when I met him, it was great. We had a conversation about 20 to 30 minutes. And of course, I'm old enough to be his mother, but in talking with him, I said, okay, Rob, after reviewing Shawn's resume, how come Shawn has not been a senior pastor or been in the role of a senior pastor with all of his expertise? And this is what he said. Rob said he should have been a senior pastor 2 years ago, but Shawn wants to hear from God. He wants to do God's will in his life, in everything. And he does that whether it's leading the family or in church. And I think that's why I feel like he's the man for our church.
Amen. Well said.
Amen.
Amen.
Who doesn't love Leanna Clark? That's what I want to know.
I hope our church family enjoys this stuff as much as we have.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, you're awesome,
I
Leanna.
told you I was going to cry. So.
Well done. Well done.
All right, Brad, how does Shawn feel about online ministry? What has he been a part of in the church setting? And how long has Shawn been a full-time pastor?
So Shawn's been a full-time pastor since 1999. He's served in all sorts of capacities of ministry throughout his tenure. He started in student ministry, kind of like Leanna talked about a second ago. One thing that really stood out to me in his resume that I thought was very impressive was that he was a minister of education at 2 or 3 different churches. His team building skills, I know that's been highlighted on his resume at several stops that he's had, is that he's developed teams, developed programs, been really vital in getting groups of people together and not only administering administrative duties to paid staff, but also leadership teams and unpaid staff, and really rallying the troops together and developing those programs. And I just think that's something that, if he comes into friendship and the willingness of people to serve in friendship, can really take that with his leadership, and just he can develop programs here that'll just really start to flourish. And I'm super excited to see that. As far as online ministry, that's been a new topic and a new subject at Friendship here over the past few weeks, something that we haven't necessarily had in the past. We asked Shawn in the recent weeks, how he felt about online ministry, and he said, it's here to stay. And I think that's going to be really vital. I mean, I think we all see the importance of it, not only working through this pandemic, but just how it can reach different people. It reaches different people at different times, gives people opportunity if for whatever reason, medical needs or just whatever reason, they can go back and view a service online at a different time. And I think it's going to be a vital tool that we're going to need going forward. I'm excited to see how Shawn can help develop that, coming from these larger churches where they've had online services maybe for years. And he's worked through a lot of things that may be obstacles for us, and it'd just be opportunities that he can help us overcome. So real excited about what he's going to bring to FBC.
Amen.
Yeah. Brad, do you remember how many churches he's pastored over those years, and an idea what the sizes were?
He's been at, I believe, 7 different locations. Most of the churches that he's been at recently have average attendance anywhere from 1,700 at Watkinsville. I think the Battle Creek church services we're averaging around 2,300 a week. I know when he was at Lavaca, we did a little research when he was at Lavaca, and I don't remember exactly in my notes the timeline on that. I think that was in the early 2000s. That congregation grew from 200 to 1,200 in the time that he was there. Now, he was part of the student ministry at that time, but I just think that just speaks to that seems to be a resounding theme that we've come across at all of his locations is just growth, and so really excited to see how he can grow moving forward.
Yeah, sure. Ms. Sheila, this question is yours. It says, what is his preference in music or preference of worship? And does Shawn feel like the choir benefits worship?
Well, I recall clearly John's immediate response to this topic in our first face-to-face meeting with he and Sarah. He answered that he loved old hymns, that he grew up on those, but he also enjoys more contemporary music as well. He said, obviously, different styles of music appeal to different people. That's understandable. In his comments about this topic in his written questionnaire, he said, traditional, well done, and with energy is very impactful. He believes that worship should be giving God the glory that is due him. He says, I'm not big on the argument of tradition versus contemporary. Whatever style you do should be done well and make much of God. He believes there should be freedom in worship, but in an ordered manner, biblically and theologically sound. He served at Beach Street First Baptist Church in Texarkana, and they had two services, one a more traditional service and the second one a more contemporary style. And he said God was using that setup very effectively, and that was in place before he got there, and it continues even today working well. Brother Shawn had a brief meeting with Brother Ricky, Taco, and Carol last week, so I just decided to touch base with Brother Ricky and kind of get his thoughts on his visit with Shawn. He was excited. He was encouraged by his conversation. I believe we all love and respect Brother Ricky, and this should be comforting to us. Shawn says he's very supportive of the choir and its involvement in the worship service, and he would certainly want that to continue at Friendship. He believes that working with Brother Ricky going forward and in our music program will continue to point people to Jesus, which is obviously his goal, drawing people to Jesus. I do want to comment about Shawn's leadership style because it kind of ties back to some decisions that were made in the past. When we were talking to him about his leadership style, he said he considers himself a collaborative leader. He values other people's insight and perspective, and he likes to bring others into the discussion and the decision-making process. So I believe this mindset is radically different from what we have had before, and that it puts us in a great place going forward on many levels. So really, to answer my question, I am completely comfortable with Shawn's answers regarding our music issues.
Thank you. You know, through this search process, we've heard our church body ask different questions. Many of them have been answered through his bio that Esther put together and gave out Saturday morning. But some of the others, like, can we hear Shawn preach more than one time? Well, yeah, some of you have already Googled him, but we're going to release a sermon that he gave us. So the question formally is, will we be able to hear Shawn preach one time on the 17th? Yes. Monday morning, we'll release a Psalm 64 sermon that he gave us. There are more. We'll release them at the time that we see fit. Probably Wednesday, Thursday. We'll talk about that a little later. But yes, you can hear him preach multiple times, and on the 17th, you'll be able to hear him and then vote. So now on to the next question, Brad. When Shawn, Sarah, and family are voted in, what do you see your role in supporting them in the church and the community, etc., as a search team member?
Well, I like the excitement and enthusiasm in that question, and just the anticipation of them being voted in already. So that's very encouraging. Uh, you know, we kind of talked about that with Shawn in the interview. You know, what he would need from us when that takes place, and what he would need from the search committee and just other leadership in the church. And he said he'd like to assemble, you know, almost like a small transition team, just somebody that could help him um, be aware of issues that may be arising, or just help be a soundboard to bounce ideas off of as we move forward, and just to really reach out and embrace the church, which I think is going to be an interesting time when we all did get back together. It's just going to be so different and so new, almost like a family reunion, so to speak, which is going to be a great opportunity for Shawn and Sarah to really start meeting each one of you, and just getting to know you. But just I'm excited for the time when that happens, just to see the excitement on everybody's face of when we can get back together. And I just think that's going to be a great time as we move forward. And I think that's going to allow Shawn and Sarah the opportunity just to like I said, kind of get to know you guys, and start to develop those relationships. And I think that's what's going to be key and important for Sunday school teachers, you know, youth leaders, just all of those different groups that we have in the church, just to surround around Shawn and just help them feel warm, comfortable, and get their feet on the ground, because he's excited about getting into our community, reaching the lost, just find out the church, getting them involved in our church, and just spreading the gospel is his main focus. And so just anything we can do to help facilitate that is just going to be exciting to see happen.
Yeah. All right, our next question came in. It says, and I'm going to answer it. It says, when we first came to FBC around 5 years ago, the senior adult groups were active, and they ran around with big smiles on their faces. As we've transitioned a few times, I've seen those smiles lessen and become sad. Do you think Shawn and Sarah will be able to correct that? Please elaborate. I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to give you what he said. This is out of his questionnaire that we sent to him. It says, how comfortable do you feel working with all the age groups that make up the membership of the church where you are serving now? What age groups do you feel most comfortable with? And Shawn said, I feel God has allowed me the opportunity to work with multiple age groups through my many years in ministry, to prepare for pastoring multiple age groups. I have a great passion for reaching, discipling, and sending all ages of people. Studies tell us that the majority of people make a decision for Jesus prior to their age of 18. This causes me to be very passionate in having a strong, vibrant, effective children's and youth ministry. I believe there should be a great emphasis put on kids and youth ministries. In my previous church, and the one I'm currently serving in, we were able to reach lots of families, people with kids. I love seeing adults pursue Jesus with their families. Now listen to this. In every church I've served, I've connected well with our senior adults and engaged them well in the ministry of our church. I've always said I'm for reaching, discipling, and sending all ages of people. I do not have one group I prefer. I believe a multi-generational church is a healthy church. We asked Shawn one day what he felt about being here for a little while, or if he was coming to Friendship to stay, or if he was coming for a little while, like a transition. And he said, no. In the past 2 large churches I've been at, I've watched pastors have multi-generational families where they led a younger one to Christ, and then they got married and later on had kids, was able to reach that family. And now he's got grandparents, mothers and fathers, and grandkids that he's led to the Lord. And he watched those pastors work through that kind of a ministry. And he says, man, I desire that with all of me. He said, I really, really want to be a part of something like that. Brother David, this one is for you, my friend. Are there any plans for building or growing the church and reaching the surrounding community? What ministries of Friendship Baptist Church do you increase, or is there a new ministry you would like to start? And is there anything in his past experience that would cause us to pause in our consideration of him and pastor? The question may not be likable, but it's one we trust you will find the candidate. But what we have been through in 2018, I think the question bears asking.
Yeah, this question, to me, I understand the necessity for it to be asked because of our past history. I don't want to delve in the past, and I'm going to try not to get really emotional about this because I'm very passionate about this. I love Friendship Baptist Church and every person that goes in those doors. I raised my family there. I've been there for over 20 years. I love it. It's my church, and I love everyone in it. Having anybody hurt somebody intentionally is not acceptable. And the time that we went through, I firmly believe it was God's will for whatever reason. I know sometimes you can't see his ways are not our ways, but for whatever reason, it happened. And you know what? We survived. We learned a tremendous amount from it. It was very painful. And, you know, I lost a lot of things over that. I mean, there's a lot of repercussions that went along with that. But with this process, and in having been involved in the previous process along with Todd in bringing the previous pastor, we wanted to make sure beyond any doubt that we did not have somebody that had the same personality and different things and that ministry. These questions that have been answered, you see these questions all kind of pull to the same core of this question. We know what we don't want. So we ask these questions like, well, what are your thoughts on these issues? Well, this is what I think. What are your thoughts on financial things? You know, we have like 3 layers of protection between the pastor and finances. All that with Shawn, it's like, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. What's the issue? And it was refreshing to see that the issues and concerns that we had were ones that he was looking at us like, why are these things even being brought up? I mean, this is just, why would that even be a problem? It's like, well, we just have to make sure we have done our diligence. We have done background investigation on Shawn. We have covered all of his references, plus went out to extra references above and beyond. Talked to people, I mean, with Brother Marcus. I mean, gosh, we love that guy. I mean, Marcus and Shawn are friends. They love one another. Marcus says, I'd love for him to be my pastor.
Amen.
But during that time, we learned a lot, and it was painful. But we're still here. We're still together. We may not be as strong as we were, but I'm telling you, with Shawn and Sarah, the sky's the limit.
Amen.
It's what do you want? I mean, it's like, well, what's he going to do? What are they going to do? What do you want to do is going to be more of the question. This is a man of God who wants to serve the body. And that's his heart. That's his passion. The main thing that really stuck to me when we were talking to them for those 2 days, and they could have went for a week and it would have been great because it was awesome. They want to wrap their arms around you. They want to love on you. They want to get to know you. They don't want to just be casual, oh, hey, that's so-and-so. They want to know about you. They want to invest their lives into your life. And that is something that, to me, you can't put a price on something like that. These people genuinely are people, persons. And the questions and concerns, because a lot of these, we were like, well, we're not going to let this happen again. We're not going to let this happen again. So we make sure we cover those things. Personality-wise, we have a lot. We're a very diverse team, as you can see. We're very diverse, and we all have our own special gift that we bring. And this is my little family right here, my brothers and sisters, because we fight like brothers and sisters. There's no question about that. Not everything is roses and tulips, but we love you, and we are so excited with Shawn and Sarah. It's just unbelievable. And if you get to know these people, you just can't help but like them. I mean, there's just certain people that you meet them and you're just like, those are generally good people. And the time that we've spent with phone calls, you can text him anytime and he responds. He is so involved and he cares. And he's praying for us and has been praying for us even before we said, hey, you're the guy. And he's like, however it works out, I'm lifting you and your body up in prayer. I want what's best for you. I want what God has for you. And therefore we believe, and I just firmly believe this, that God has brought this man to us. And we are so blessed to have this caliber of man of God to come into our midst and completely form us into something different, but to give us the opportunity to reach out and see what we can do. I mean, we need to reach out for that community. One of the things that he asked each of us when we first met, he goes, "What do you want for your church?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to tell you what I want. We don't need a building program. We got more space than we can put people in. I want to fill the church up to where there's no capacity, and I want us to either have to build on here or just start building other churches, do church plants, because we can't contain it." I said, the thousands of people that live within our little footprint right here are so, the harvest is plenty, the workers are few, and I'm ready to be a worker. And it's like, man, that sounds great. That's something that, you know, we can fill that building up, not a problem. And I know there's concerns, and the number one is that I couldn't bear to have another situation happen like that. And from the bottom of my heart, trust me, if I had any reservations about this, those of you that know me, you know that I would be the first one to stand up and say, there's no way this is happening.
Yeah.
But this man is the real deal. And he loves you, and he hasn't even met you yet.
Yeah.
Well, and even though we have disagreed on many things in the past 18 months, have we disagreed on anything to do with Shawn and Sarah Mills?
No.
I can't think of one thing
No.
that we have not seen eye to eye.
That's right.
It has been, he's a unifier right here on this Zoom. I mean, we have been of one mind and one spirit when it comes to them.
Amen.
Yeah. Our next question came in. I'm going to answer it. It says, will Shawn be preaching from our church? Yes, we have been doing pre-recorded sermons. So the one that plays on Sunday morning was recorded at an earlier period during the week. Can't tell you when. He is going to come in town. He will preach from Friendship Baptist Church. We're going to set that all up with him. So he will be here. The next part of the question says, if so, is it possible for those without internet or cell phones to be present with social distancing in place to hear him? If you know someone like that, please have them contact one of the search team members directly. We will make accommodations for them. We'll figure out how this is going to work. But yes, there's a way you can see him, and then you'll be able to vote right afterwards. It'll be at the same time as everyone watching on YouTube and Facebook as well. So yes, please have them contact the search team members directly. In the comments or at the end of the video, we'll be sure and put our cell phone numbers up there again. But again, please have them contact us. We really, really, truly want to make sure everyone has the opportunities.
Todd, would you make that clear that if they do that, they'll be watching the same video that we're posting? It won't be watching him live on Sunday. It will be watching a video from the church building.
That'll be correct. If they are able to come to the church building, if that's how we set it all up, they'll watch it on the big screens, the same recording that we watch on Facebook or YouTube at our house. So it's going to be a recorded message by Shawn at Friendship Baptist Church.
Okay.
So our next question, Brad, it says, when we go back to church, will we have two services to allow for social distancing? And if so, will that allow for two types of worship, traditional or contemporary?
You know, that's really an impossible question to answer at this time until we know more from the state and from the governor as to how churches are going to reopen and reestablish. We've kind of discussed that as a committee. See that as a possibility to have multiple services. We really don't know what that's going to look like or how that's going to unfold at this time. You know, we've even had some discussions with Shawn about that as to, you know, what he would think, how that would look and how we would start to incorporate that. You know, there'll be more information to come out later as to how that's going to unfold. And to answer the types of worship service, you know, I thought Ms. Sheila did a great job of answering the question a few minutes ago. You know, he's had similar type situations at other facilities, at other churches that they've done temporary and contemporary and traditional type services in the past. And so, you know, that would be up to Shawn and the church collectively as to how that would take place going forward.
Yeah. Good. Next, we've asked Leanna and Josh to kind of tag team this question. It says, has Brother Shawn Mills been familiarized with our policy and procedure document? And does he understand that we are very conservative fiscally and have a definite policy and procedure in place to be good stewards of God's money and the resources given to Friendship Baptist Church? Miss Leanna, let's start with you and Josh interject.
Okay, that sounds great, Todd. Well, first of all, when we met with them on a Thursday night, March the 12th, and then that Friday night, March the 13th, does he know our policies and procedures? Oh my goodness, I was blown out of the water. First of all, not only he knew them probably, and I'm embarrassed to say probably better than I did, but yes, you know, our policies and procedures, the manual was first written in 2003, and then it was revised in 2009. And he was very well read, very well versed, very comfortable with our discussion about our policies and procedures. Okay, Josh, you're next.
That was the shortest answer I've ever heard you give, Miss Leanna. I thought I had another couple minutes here. So Shawn wanted, or asked about our budget. We talked to him about our budget. We gave him access to see what our financial records look like. He was able to see a month-to-month thing that we get. Sorry. He was able to see a month-to-month thing that we get. He was able to see our 2019 year-end reports. He was able to see, I believe, our January and February reports. And I think he was on board with everything. I think our church is operated in a responsible manner. And I don't think he sees a reason to change that. I don't know why he would. But also, the money that comes to our church is to be used for God, and that's what we've done, and I think that's what we'll continue to do. And I don't think that he's asking for, unoverseen access to any amount of money. He was very comfortable with, the way that we're set up now. And in fact, it seems like, having a budget and finance committee is a safeguard to keep him safe as well. And I think he would, continue to do that.
Yeah. I think we were all pretty shocked that we had sent the policy, procedure, and bylaws a couple of weeks before when we did our telephone interview for him to review after we approved it as a committee. And then when he came into town from Georgia, we flew him here and met with him that Thursday and Friday night. We asked a couple of questions, and he started citing our bylaws and our policy. Around the table, we all kind of looked shocked for a second. He memorized it in that amount of time. So that was a very happy moment in my life.
Me too.
So I think, just to interject something here, he had actually done a lot of homework on us as well.
Mm-hmm.
He had spoken with the state office about our church. He had spoken with Warren Gassaway. He had spoken with Marcus Brown. And before our 2 days was over, he said, you guys haven't told me anything that scares me off. And if this is what the Lord has for me, I'm all in. So if he's heard all of our dirty laundry and he still wants to come and is excited about coming, then that says a lot for him.
Amen.
Anybody want to say anything?
Well, I think it gives him an understanding of where we've been.
Yes.
And a very good roadmap of how to proceed with us, how to love us well, how to get to know us, and how to proceed into the future. It was very impressive. You're right, Sheila. He had done his homework on Friendship Baptist Church, and they love us already.
Yeah.
We our last set of questions revolve around the voting questions, so these will be directed to Brad. First question is, how will senior members or others without internet or smartphones be able to get the questions to you or see the preaching on May 17th? And then will the voting be 90% of the church or 90% of the votes turned in? And the last part of the question is, how and when will the results be reported?
Yeah, so with any of our standard voting processes in the past, it's been 90% of the votes cast, not 90% of the church. I think we were looking at the church roll the other day, and it was in well above the 1,000, almost close to 2,000 mark on the roll. So it would be based on the votes cast at the time. So that's why it's real important. And we've really encouraged everybody over the last week and going to continue to encourage people to please submit your information. We need an email address and or a text number in order to get you the electronic ballots in order to use the Election Buddy system. It's going to be a simple, fast, and easy, secure system to use that I think will be really good. Those ballots will be cast or will be sent out electronically, either through a text message or an email, approximately 15 to 20 minutes after Shawn's service airs on Facebook and on YouTube. We're going to have a voting window open for 2 hours. Those votes would be electronically tabulated by Election Buddy. We will get the results of that and then get that out to you guys on Facebook and just whatever social media outlets, phone calls, however we can get it out the fastest to everybody. We will get those results out ASAP as soon as the results are to us. To answer about the senior adults, Todd touched on this a few minutes ago. Another key important fact there, if you know of anybody who does not have internet capabilities or is going to have issues voting, please get them in touch with somebody on the search team. We are going to make arrangements to see that everybody gets the opportunity to vote that wants to vote. But it's going to take, work on church member part. We need your information. You gotta get the information to us. Also want to touch on this to kind of clear anything up as far as if you have a family member in your household, young adult, older adult, that does not have text or internet capabilities or an email address, but they live in a house that does have those capabilities, you can get an additional ballot from us for that family member. It would be a paper ballot, just like we would hand out to someone else that does not have internet capabilities, and it'll have a 16-digit code that they can go onto any device, cell phone, computer, log into Election Buddy, enter their code, and still receive the same ballot that everybody else is going to get. And so, again, we want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to vote if they choose to vote in this. And so really looking forward to it. I know there's going to be some questions. If you have any questions, reach out to the search team or reach out to me as we work through the election process.
All right, I'll give just a second for any final thoughts. I want to bring something up that Shawn said when we first phone called him, or phone interviewed with him. He said that he was in the people business and that we're all in the people business, trying to lead people to Jesus. I think that's the thought that plays over and over in my mind every time we've talked with him. That seems to come back up. But, any final thoughts before we close out?
I did want to mention, I know there had been some questions about if you'll get a confirmation email that we've gotten your information. There will be a confirmation email. I've gotten so far pretty close to 140 or 150 numbers and emails in. I just haven't had a chance to reply to everybody unless I had a question about something. I'm sorry. Come here. I'm so sorry about this. Anyway, you will get a confirmation email. I just have to have a chance to do it. It's probably a terrible idea for Sharpie. But you will get a confirmation email. Sorry.
I think Hannah's done great.
Hey, that's good to have her on here with us. That's great.
Yeah.
Not a Sharpie, Josh, please.
I was thinking the same thing.
Kristen's going to see this tomorrow night, and she's going to figure out why there's Sharpie marks all over our house.
Hey, Todd, one thing that I got that came in today as I was passing out packets and visiting with people up at the church, I think it's worth saying, we know this is a little unusual, maybe a different way of doing things, and we wish it was all in person. We wish that we weren't in a pandemic, and I think from the very beginning, Shawn said, I want to meet as many people as possible before we went all shut down. So please know our heart is we wish this was in person. We wish we were back in that church and we were united all together, but we're just trying to do the best that we can to facilitate this, because what a reopening it's going to be. It will be a great party, but I know several people wish that was open, but there is just no known date of when we can all assemble back in our church building safely, and what the number will be and all of that. So because of that, we collectively made the decision to move forward with this particular process. So it's not our first choice, but I, for one, really appreciate Brad Matthews leading up and taking the lead on the election buddy, and DeWanna helping us. Just for Zoom, we've just had a learning curve and everybody's pitched in. So I hope you'll just reach out to us if you have questions. But no, we wish it was in person, but we're trying to do the best possible option in our circumstances.
All right. So I do want to say one more thing. Thank you guys so much for the calls and the texts and the emails and other things. We appreciate your thoughts, thanking us for the job we've done. We've all said that. But we love our church so much, and we're so passionate about doing this the right way and trying to answer all the questions that you have. If we haven't done that today, email us, call us, text us, whatever you want to do to get in touch with the 7 of us. We'd be happy to answer anything we can for you. Again, just be prayerful over this whole event. Be praying for Shawn and Sarah, Ty, and Haley as they'll make the transitions and everything that they need to make. Thank you again for tuning in. God bless you. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah, we love you.
Bye.
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 Bye.